Hello, welcome back. I'm the absolute worst, and we're here with some Minecraft Bedrock. And today we are taking kind of an interesting look at some armor details, I guess you could say, in Minecraft that aren't too readily accessible just by the information we're provided in-game. So as you can see here, we have a bunch of different ways to damage our character. Our character is wearing full netherite with Prot 4 enchantments on it, and the reason for this is because it's the highest damage resistance that you can acquire in the game without like the Grandmaster turtle potion or whatever it is. But just through armor and enchantments, this is the most defense that you can get without any potions or weird wacky stuff, but basically the most general use armor for end game play. So basically what we have on these signs here is the damage that we take from all of these sources with no armor, with netherite armor, and then with full prot netherite armor. And we're just going to go through some of the different details around these damages. So for this first one, this is just getting caught on fire and stepping out. So you can see 1, 2, 3 ticks, 4 ticks, 5 ticks, 6 ticks of damage, and I take my first half heart of health, or damage rather. So on the sign, we take half a heart of HP per tick with no armor and with netherite armor, but once we have the full prot netherite armor, we take 0.5 HP damage every 6 ticks. So that gives you quite a bit of fire resistance, as opposed to the none, essentially, that you get with no armor and netherite. The next way we have to damage our character is through standing in the fire, which this one's a little funky. You'll see some of the signs have ranges listed on here, and that's because with the way that the in-game ticks work on Bedrock, it's not super consistent, so it's hard to measure the exact quantities, but all of these ranges are relatively accurate. But anyways, with no armor, if we're standing in the fire and we don't step out, we take 0.5 to 1 HP per tick, and I think that's just because of the way it calculates being burned by the fire and your character being on fire. With netherite armor, we take 0.5 HP per 5 ticks, which is significantly less damage than if we step in and step out. And then with full prot netherite armor, we take 0.5 HP every 15 to 20 ticks. So we'll go ahead and demonstrate that. But as you can see, for whatever reason, the damage we take when standing in the fire is way, way less than when we step in and step out. It's kind of odd. So that is everything with fire. The next one is lava. So with no armor, we take about 2.5 hearts of damage every tick when we jump into lava. With netherite armor, you take about half a heart of damage every tick. And with full prot netherite, which is what we have on, we take about half a heart of damage every 4 to 6 ticks. So if we jump in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that had a couple extra because of the way that it interacted with like my regen. Plus, I took a heart of damage immediately upon stepping in. So like I said, it's kind of weird. The game like stores basically information about when you were last damaged, and it can apply it to the next damage you take. It's kind of odd, but basically every 4 to 6 ticks, you're going to take a half-hearted damage when you're standing in lava. Now, what does this mean? It basically means with full netherite or with full protection netherite armor, you're almost invulnerable to fire. You really don't need to worry about lava or fire anymore. Now, this one's kind of interesting. So, this is drowning, okay? And without full prot netherite armor, you take 1 damage, 1 HP, 1 whole heart every tick. But with full prot netherite armor, you take 0.5 HP every 2 ticks, which basically means you're taking half the damage in double the time. So effectively, you have quadruple the amount of time to swim in water without air, which is definitely pretty helpful if you're trying to get yourself down into a ocean monument or something of that nature, fighting guardians. It definitely gives you a lot more time to spend underwater. And as you can see here, every 2 ticks we take damage. And also, kind of a strange thing about water is your drowning only accounts like for every 3 ticks, and then it skips a tick. So even though these values are technically accurate, every 2 ticks you take a half heart of damage. The longer you're in water, this value is actually, you get more value out of your HP because it's always skipping the 4th tick. So it's kind of hard to explain, but basically You take half an HP, half a heart damage in the first 2 ticks. Then you take your 3rd tick of damage. Then you skip a tick, and then you take another half heart of damage on the next tick. So essentially, you take 1 full heart of HP every 5 ticks. So that's that. And our next one is creepers. So this is a point blank creeper explosion. With no armor, you die upon his explosion. With netherite armor, you take 3 hearts, and then with full prot netherite, you take half a heart. So as you can see there, we took half a heart of damage, which is definitely, I mean, obviously it's basically like immunity to creepers as well, so that's pretty handy. And the conclusion we can make for these first 5 methods of damage is basically that we don't have to worry about any of them, right? Creepers are negligible. Drowning, you should never drown unless you're way too deep. And then with lava and fire, you really shouldn't ever die to those alone, because you should be able to get out of them and wait out the damage before it kills you anyways, with netherite full protection armor. So our next one here is this is kind of an interesting one. So this is the one type of damage that no matter where you're at in the game, whether it's early game, late game, doesn't matter, you should always be afraid of poison damage. So the easiest way to run into poison damage is usually through either cave spiders or witches, but either one are relatively easy to avoid. But if we throw this down here, you can see we take half a heart of HP every tick, and that's the same value for every form of armor, basically. Whether we have no armor, netherite armor, or full prot netherite armor, we always take 0.5 HP per tick, and that's for, that is for the duration of the poison here that you can see is running out. So we'll go ahead and heal ourselves real quick. All right. So our next one is the wither skeletons / actual wither. So I kind of broke these values down a little bit different as well. If we just read through them right here, as you can see, no armor, we take 4 damage upon initial hit from the wither skeletons, plus 1 HP of wither per tick. For netherite armor, we take 0.5 damage from the skeleton, plus 1 HP of wither per tick. And then for the full protection netherite armor, we don't take any damage upon getting hit by the wither, but we take still 1 HP of damage per tick. So essentially wither, which as you can see here, we took no damage. And now we're taking, it shows half heart, but again, that's just because of the way the in-game ticks work with the regen and whatnot. But if we check our, missed it there, we'll get hit by him again. If we check our statuses, we can see wither is actually like an affliction, so it's similar to poison. Basically, it's just a enhanced version of poison. But with this armor, it really doesn't matter, especially if we're not taking any damage from the actual wither himself. You can fight these guys without too much concern. So our next one is something that is shown as a stat on the armor, but it's not really demonstrated very well anywhere. So basically, as you can see on here, there's +2 knockback resistance on all of this netherite armor for a total of 8 knockback resistance. And so basically that means that when you're hit with damage, you will be pushed back further, or a shorter distance, but it doesn't really, nowhere in the game can you really find how effective it is. So with no armor, we're knocked back basically 2 blocks. I have 2 meters here, and each block has 1 meter. So basically from 1 block, when you're hit up into the air and then you finally stop sliding, it's about 2 blocks backwards. With netherite armor and full protection netherite armor, since the protections don't affect us at all, you take effectively no knockback. So 0.1 to 0.15 meters. If we go ahead and step on this pressure plate, we'll get shot with an arrow. And if you watch my little cursor, it moved from about like right here on that block to right there. So it's effectively no knockback. There still is a tiny bit, but not enough to really matter at all, which is just kind of an interesting thing to know about this armor. And then finally, this is another one that's kind of interesting, kind of like the drowning. but this is fall damage, and this is without feather falling. So just protections from the armor and enchantments themselves. If you have no armor, you'll take 0.5 HP from the starting block that you can take damage from, which is 4 blocks up. With netherite armor, you'll still take that 0.5 HP, and then with full prot, netherite armor will take 0 HP. We might take half a heart of HP here just because it's like preloaded from the other damage we took. Yep, so we did there. But now we took none. So as you can see, the armor actually does decrease the amount of damage you take upon falling. A perfect pair of boots, you'll have 3 prot. You'll have prot 3 with 4 feather falling and 1 bending. That's all the enchantments you can fit on your boots, or at least that's all the enchantments that you can fit on your boots that I've been able to find works. And with those enchantments, you can fall about 45 blocks for like 5 or 6 hearts of damage. So you really don't have to worry in most cases about fall damage either, because even if you fall into a ravine, if you get caught on a ledge, you're usually falling like 20 or 30 blocks. So if you kind of just take this all with a grain of salt in terms of the values, but understand that most of these forms of damage you're immune to, that really just kind of highlights the value of this netherite armor, especially with prot 4, and just how easy mode the game kind of gets once you're at that point. So if you learned something today that you didn't know before, please leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think of the video. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please consider it, because it definitely helps get the videos out there. But until next time, we will catch you, and thanks for watching.